What is going on, guys? It's your boy Kaijus, and welcome back to another episode of a guide on how to play. So this episode we're going to do Gren Maju, how to play Gren Maju. So if you haven't checked it out already, I did do a deck profile on this updated build, so check that out before you watch this video. But if you normally play Danger Maju or Gren Maju in general, this video is also for you, so stick around. But before we begin, make sure you like and subscribe, leave a comment down below telling me what deck you would like me to teach you how to play, and thank you guys for all the support.
Stardust, Black Rose, no hope, life low. Alright, I'm set, I got my deck. I'm about to head to my homie crib next. I got a brand new combo with some chicks. I'm about to burn them for 8,000 quick. Got it on standby so you can't draw. Main face ain't shit, go to your school phase, that mean you lost. That's how it be.
Alright, now let's get started. So what do we know about Gren Maju? Gren Maju is a banish based deck, so we want to banish as much as we can so our Maju can gain 400 attack and defense for every banished card we have. Our two best friends in every Gren Maju build will be Pot of Desires and Gessmek Orochi. Pot of Desires, you banish 10 for cost and you draw 2 cards. Now, I know this is basically a staple in every single deck and people always tend to ash it, but when you're playing Gren Maju, the ash, getting this ash doesn't really matter, as basically we are trying to feed our Maju cards so he can boost up his attack and defense. Gessmek Orochi, you banish 8 and then you can special summon him from grave or from your hand. I am going to be teaching you some more combos with Gessmek Orochi because he's just really good in this build. So yeah, Gren Maju, Pot of Desires, gets ash, doesn't matter, drop the Maju, hit for 4k. Obviously, if you have these two, drop the Pot of Desires first, then drop the Gessmek Orochi, then you would have banished 18. And then there's some duels where you'll be able to drop 2 Pot of Desires and then just boost him up to 8k and OTK with that. Another card that I've been adding, and that a lot of people just tend to play in general, is Dimensional Fissure. Any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So Gren Maju doesn't gain attack for your opponent's banished cards, just for yours. But if you're getting monsters that are being destroyed, they're still getting banished, so it's still boosting up your Gren Maju. And yeah, as I said, these are our best friends. These are a must in Gren Maju, which is Pot of Desires and Gessmek Orochi. So our main monsters in the deck as well, besides from Gren Maju, are obviously the Gessmek Orochi, which I've now mentioned, Dimension Shifter, Alpha the Master Beast, Danger Thunderbird, and Danger Bigfoot. So Gessmek Orochi can be special summoned from grave or from your hand. You just have to banish 8 cards from the top of your deck. So if you've got Dangers in hand and you've got a Gessmek Orochi, do not trigger Gessmek Orochi first, because then that's taking cards away from your hand and you're most likely to discard your Danger, which sometimes it can be good because Danger Bigfoot pops a face-up card your opponent controls, and Danger Thunderbird, when discarded, pops a back row from your opponent. But when we're trying to, obviously, they're all level 8s. I explained this more in my deck profile, but when we're trying to special summon, sorry about that. When we're trying to special summon and we're trying to spam our board to trying to OTK or trying to go into our XYZs, discarding Dangers isn't always good. So what we're going to want to do is trigger our Dangers first. And for Gessmek Orochi, remember I said he can be special summoned from grave or from your hand. So if you say trigger Danger Bigfoot and you discard Gessmek, you get to special summon your Danger Bigfoot, you draw the 1 card off its effect, and then you can trigger Gessmek Orochi from the grave. Another monster we're playing is Alpha. So remember Alpha, if your opponent attacks equal more than yours, so basically it's always going to be if he controls more monsters than you, you can special summon him, then you can bounce him back to your hand and then bounce something your opponent controls. Now, after you do that, a lot of people forget this. When you special summon him, you bounce him back to your hand, you bounce something your opponent controls, you can then special summon him again. A lot of people forget that. So if you special summon him again, you obviously can't attack. So what you're going to want to do is overlay and go into an XYZ. Another thing, Dimensional Shifter. We obviously have 3 in the deck, so we want to try and draw him as fast as we can, hopefully open him, hard draw him, and then just trigger him, and then basically everything gets banished for 2 turns. Another great booster for our Gren Maju, but after we then have stuff in our grave, he basically becomes useless, but he's still in the deck because he's still such a good card. So if you then can't trigger Dimension Shifter, as I said, and you've got Dangers and Gessmek, always trigger your dangers first if you don't have any, like, if you've got Gren Maju, obviously you're going to want to try and normal summon him first. But other than that, trigger your dangers first, because you want as many cards as you want in your hand, or as you can in your hand, so you don't discard them if you're trying to then special summon them. So now then, we're playing all level 8, so we're also playing another draw power, which is trade in. So trade in, I always like to discard Gizmek Orochi because he's a level 8, so it doesn't hurt as much. So trade in, discard Gizmek Orochi, draw the 2 cards. I don't know, just say these are our 2 cards. So we've now got 5 cards in our hand. Special summon Gren Maju, Gizmek Orochi from grave, banish the 8. Our Gren Maju's now got attack, so we're then going to try and trigger our dangers. So another engine we're playing in Gren Maju is the Kaiju engine. So we're playing the 1 Flame Kaiju, the 1 Wind Kaiju, and the 1 Water Kaiju, which together they go along with Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. And the new addition, which has been Fairy Tale Luna. So with Kaijus, basically, why are we playing Kaijus? Basically, Dragoon, anything that can't be destroyed by battle, targeted by card effects, Kaijus just tribute it, and your opponent obviously gets a nice little Kaiju. The only downside to them is, obviously, if the monster can't be tributed, then you're kind of like in a pickle, but that genuinely never happens. So basically, Kaijus beat over anything, tribute it, give your opponent the Kaiju, give yourself the strongest Kaiju all the time. Please remember that. And as I said, we're playing level 8. So Kaiju's, Turtle Kaiju's a level 8, Flame Kaiju's a level 8, Godarla's a level 8. So we're always going to be able to spam our XYZ plays. If your opponent has something that can negate, for example, a Dragoon, you're going to want to Kaiju that first. Get it out of the way. Then if you've got Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, you're going to want to drop that and then just basically tribute the entire field, and then give yourself and your opponent a Kaiju. So remember, you always want to get rid of what negates. So Dragoon, basically any negate your opponent has, Kaiju it very first thing, and then go from there, start doing your plays. So the combo with Fairy Tale Luna is basically we Kaiju our opponent, we normal summon Luna, Luna effect to search a copy of herself, so take another copy to our hand, blah, blah, blah. So effect is we're going to target the Godarla we gave to our opponent, so our opponent has to send a monster with that exact name. If he doesn't, which obviously, hopefully he doesn't, Godarla is then going to be bounced back to our hand, and Fairy Tale Luna is going to be bounced back to our hand. And that's basically, we've recycled our Kaiju, and if our opponent has another monster, we can then drop the Kaiju again. So it's basically a Kaiju recycler, and it's just like basically just double Kaiju. Now, another combo is, for example, we can only control 1 Kaiju. So if we've Kaiju'd our opponent, we can then, that allows us to special summon a Kaiju to our side of the field. So our Kaiju is going to be there, and say we've got a Gizmek Orochi in our hand, we're going to special summon that. We're then going to overlay into, I don't know, an XYZ. Where's my extra deck? Here it is. So say we just go into Dingirsu. We technically no longer control that Kaiju that we overlaid. So what's going to happen? We're going to be able to drop another Kaiju because we no longer control one. Our opponent still controls one. So that's a nice little tech that not a lot of people use. So if you overlay it, you don't control it anymore, and you can drop another Kaiju to your side of the field. And it's basically another level 8, another body. So you can basically just attack or have more power on your side of the board. We're also playing Super Poly. Now, Super Poly is very conditional. If our opponent meets like the requirements we need, then we can activate Super Poly. With Super Poly, you kind of don't want to Super Poly straight away. You kind of want to see like what your opponent like is playing. So if you're playing like against an Invoked Shaddoll, they can obviously recycle quite a lot. So you're going to want to wait till your opponent like goes into the wall, at least I do. I like waiting until my opponent goes into the battle phase, or if he's like just done summoning and he's gonna end main phase 1, that's when I'm gonna super poly, because then that's when you just basically take everything from them and then they can't do anything about it. So the main targets like I like going into is Starving Venom because of the effect, or Predaplant, which is one fusion monster, one dark monster, and then the rest that we are playing are basically just conditional, invoked, links, just random archetypes, and salads, which is a thing now. All right, now, so I'm gonna do a little combo video to just show you guys how this deck runs. So we're gonna do just a quick shuffle, so we can draw just literally a random hand and go from there. Hopefully it won't be one of those 1 in 10 times that we brick. This deck is fairly consistent. I did do a combo video on this before, and you guys loved that I just drew random hands and I basically made an OTK board from that. But not much has changed from this build. I have, like, obviously you have to adapt it to every format. But yeah. Remember, you always want to go second with this deck. If you're ever made to go first, we have side deck options to go first. So check out my deck profile, where I explain everything. I will try and leave the link down below. But basically, all right, we're going second. So let's see what our first 5 are. Super Poly, Pot of Desires, Gizmek Orochi, Dimension Shifter, and a second Super Poly. So obviously, main phase 1, our opponent's going to start. He's going first, trigger the Dimension Shifter. Actually, so he's engraved. So basically everything from our opponent's turn till the end of our turn is going to be banished. So blah 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 blah. Our opponent ends his turn. Draw. Beautiful. The Danger Thunderbird. We're going to want to drop the Pot of Desires, so we're going to banish 10, draw 2. Let me just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Beautiful. So those were banished. So we drew a Gizmek and a Gadarla. So we're going to trigger the Danger Thunderbird. So we're going to shuffle our hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to roll a dice. Oh. So that is a 3, 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. The Super Poly. So then the Thunderbird gets summoned. We draw that 1 card. We're going to Kaiju whatever opponent has. So Kaiju, we're going to special the Gadarla to our side of the field. We're then going to trigger the Gizmek Orochi. So by banishing 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And, oh, sorry, the Gizmek gets summoned. So we've now got stuff to, like, spam XYZs. So what we're going to want to do, it's really dependent. If the Kaiju's the only thing our opponent has, then we might just be able to hit for game. Or we've got, obviously, 3 monsters we can then link into, 3 link materials we can link into Blackluster Soldier. You can go into Dingirsu, send the turtle to the grave, and then basically attack, and you've got a protection. You can go into Photon Lord, just to have that monster negate, or you can go into the Dragublion package to try and hit. And then obviously whatever XYZ you summon that you attack, you can then overlay into Zeus. So just to do, like, show you the order in which you play your cards is basically, no matter what you draw, this card you always want to trigger first before you start getting things in your grave. So Dimension Shifter, very first card we have to trigger. For our draw power, whatever we've got, if we've got a Pot of Desires in our hand, you're always going to want to bait out the Ash with the trade-in, because trade-in is not once per turn, and you're discarding the Gizmek Orochi. Always try and discard Gizmek Orochi, because it doesn't hurt as much, because you can still special summon him from the graveyard by banishing 8. So first, Second, always use the Gizmek Orochi. Third, use the Pot of Desires. After you've Pot of Desires, you want to Alpha. Kaiju, don't summon anything before summoning the Alpha because you want your opponent's attacks to equal more than yours. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you've Alpha'd, you can then, I don't know, Kaiju. After you've Kaiju'd, special summon your Kaiju, which is, let's just get a random one. Up here it is, Flame Kaiju. Always give yourself the Flame Kaiju because it's the strongest one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give yourself the Kaiju. After you've Kaiju'd, you're going to want a Luna. Luna, declare Gadarla. Gadarla bounce back to hand. Fairy Tail Luna back to your hand. Very important. Fairy Tail Luna does count as your normal summon. So if you've got that Maju in hand, do really consider what you want to do. If you've got enough with the Maju to beat over the Kaiju, then just do that. But if not, basically Fairy Tail Luna and then just recycle your Kaiju. After you've done that, optional, you can Interrupted Kaiju Slumber if your opponent has more monsters and he doesn't have any more negates. So optional. But after that, after you've Kaiju and all that good stuff, you can drop the Gren Maju if you didn't drop the Fairy Tail Luna. And then when you've Trade In and when you've Pot of Desires, you obviously have more cards in hand. So in between here, we are going to squeeze our Danger Thunderbird and our Danger Bigfoot. So first, second, third, fourth if you want, 3.5 we'll call it. Then Pot of Desires, but then you can also trigger your dangers there because you want as many cards as you want in your hand, so we can summon them. After that, Alpha, Kaijus, Gren Maju, Fairy Tail, and basically just go from there. If you've got enough, then obviously spam your XYZs. So I'm now going to go into XYZs actually. So if we're made to go first, obviously you can Lancelot, Omni Negate. Be careful because he can negate your stuff as well. Saphinon to basically lock your opponent from special summoning from the graveyard. Photon Lord to basically just negate, I don't know, Nibiru or anything. And then the Dragoobleon package, it's really nice because you've got an option if you're going second. Obviously, you want that Numeron Dragon to try and OTK. If you're going first, Hope Harbinger is a really good card. Basically, it'll just negate spells. Remember, Dragoobleon cannot be targeted. A lot of people forget that, so he's quite a nice 3k beat stick. Obviously, it locks you into, like, if you summon Numeron, you can't attack with Dragoobleon. But the following turn, you can. If Dragoobleon battles and he gets negated, but he still manages to battle, you can then just overlay into the Zeus. And Dingirsu is just, Dingirsu, you send something, you protect something. It's just an insane card and probably my favorite XYZ monster. Super poly targets are just very conditional to what your opponent is playing. And if it seems like more of a grind game, and you're able to spare materials, you can go into the Blackluster Soldier. I know this is still a very expensive card, so do not worry if you don't have this card. It's not a must in the deck. It's just really nice because if you make it with level 7 or higher, then it just becomes a massive beat stick. But don't worry about it. You just easily add another XYZ, add another super poly target. It's up to you. So Blackluster Soldier isn't really necessary in this deck. But yeah, that is it for the deck. Oh, not deck profile. Something's wrong with me today, guys. That is it for the guide video, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what deck you want me to teach you next. I do have a couple of deck profiles on my YouTube channel. So I've got Tri Brigade, I've got Pendulums. I know Hardcore Cards, I have asked them to do a guide on how to play Pendulums because I have no idea. That's why I leave all the deck profiles to him. But yeah, let me know what deck you want me to do next. I will be doing other deck profiles very soon. I'm going to be doing a Pure Shaddoll, a Pure Tri Brigade, Altergeist, Melfi, and all those good fun decks. I'll also be doing a Blue Eyes White Dragon decks because I know you guys love those. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for all the support. Kaiba Lord out.